This is a full story. Kitten wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. The big boss's daughter is interning in our department. 1 second, I was wondering how I got exposed so quickly. The next second, I saw my college classmate, who was also interning with me, post a message in the group chat. "Oh, I told you not to spread it around. I just wanted to keep a low profile." Wow, since when did my dad secretly have a new daughter? As soon as senior year internship season began, my dad waved his hand and placed me in his company, saying it was to train my abilities. But I knew the real reason. He didn't want me to be bullied elsewhere. Interning at Galaxy Group meant my dad and my brother could look out for me. To avoid any special treatment, I had agreed with my family before starting the job that I wouldn't reveal my identity at the company. I'd just be a regular worker bee. But unexpectedly, my precaution created an opening for someone else. On my first day, I ran into my college classmate Haley. We both froze. Haley had always been at the bottom of our class rankings. With her abilities, getting into Galaxy Group was virtually impossible. She clearly didn't expect to run into someone familiar here either. "Wow, Rocky, what are you doing here?" Haley greeted me first. Not wanting to admit I got in through connections, I brushed it off. Just lucky, I guess. Got in through the interview. It wasn't exactly a lie. After all, I'd gone through all the required processes. "Well, that's different from me," Haley said with a smug smile, lifting her chin slightly. "My dad's an executive at Galaxy Group. He got me in." "Oh, come on. What are the odds?" Within an hour, everyone in the department knew that we had a VIP in our group. Haley's desk was right next to mine. The entire morning, she boasted about her executive father without giving any specific details. Some nosy employees went to ask HR. The answer from HR confirmed that Haley had been added last minute and skipped the interview entirely. Soon, everyone was cozying up to Haley, trying to curry favor with her. Meanwhile, I was being asked to fetch tea, make copies, and print documents. Oh well, at least I'm working for the family business. After some initial excitement, the supervisor came out and said a few words, and everyone got back to work. But during the lunch break, a bombshell piece of news quickly reignited the department's enthusiasm. The big boss's daughter is interning in our department. The revelation caused a ripple effect. What? The young miss is here for a slice of real life? Where is she? Let me lay my humble eyes on her. Come on, don't be such a bootlicker. Watching the lively discussion in the group chat, I felt a bit embarrassed. Everyone was being way too enthusiastic. Is this for real? Sounds fake to me. It's absolutely true. She told me herself. Hold on, when did I ever say that? While I was still puzzled, another message popped up in the chat. "Oh, I told you not to spread it around. I just wanted to keep a low profile." I looked up at Haley, who had sent the message. She blushed and playfully scolded Serena. "Weren't we supposed to keep this a secret?" Serena stuck out her tongue. I couldn't help it. I sneered inwardly. Serena was a gossip queen, spilling all kinds of company rumors all morning. Telling her was as good as announcing it to the world. Who was she trying to fool? "Oh my gosh, Haley, why didn't you tell us earlier that your dad is the big boss? You're way too humble." Haley gave a bashful smile. "It's no big deal. Just treat me as a regular colleague. Please don't give me any special treatment. It'd make me feel pressured." Serena chimed in with flattery. "Haley, you're so understanding. You don't have an ounce of arrogance." Haley's smile grew even sweeter. "We're all just colleagues after all." I quietly watched their performance from the sidelines. When they finally finished, I spoke up. "Funny, you never mentioned this in school." Haley turned to me with a smile. "I didn't want to stress anyone out." "You're so considerate," I said with a faint smile. "I'd love to meet the big boss someday. Since we're old classmates, think you could introduce me?" Before Haley could reply, Serena scoffed. "Do you even know your place? Someone like you wants to meet the big boss?" I shrugged. "Just kidding." Haley and Serena spent the whole day gossiping, leaving more than half their work unfinished by the end of the day. "Rocky, I still have a few spreadsheets to finish. Can you help me out?" I had just slung my bag over my shoulder, ready to leave, when Haley stopped me. "No." I sidestepped her and started walking away. Serena grabbed my bag and glared at me. "Rocky, how can you be so selfish? You can't even do this tiny favor?" I gave her a cold look. "This is a workplace, not the audition stage for Touching China. I'm under no obligation to do her work for her." I didn't expose Haley's lies because it wasn't worth it. I had no intention of revealing my identity, and if she wanted to play her little charade, I was happy to watch the show for entertainment. But not calling her out didn't mean I'd let her walk all over me. "Don't be so ungrateful," Serena snapped, clearly enraged by my attitude. With a scoff, she added, "You know Haley's background. Her asking for your help is doing you a favor." Her words nearly made me laugh. "You can keep that favor for yourself. After all, I'm not in the habit of wagging my tail for others." "What did you say?" Serena's eyes flared with anger as she glared at me, gritting her teeth. Haley frowned at me from the side. Rocky, if you don't want to help, fine, but why say such hurtful things? Serena just speaks her mind. She didn't mean anything by it. A single sentence shifted the blame onto me. Truly quick-witted. If you don't like my tone, then stop provoking me. I couldn't be bothered to argue further. Glancing at Serena's hand on my bag, I raised an eyebrow. This bag is a rare Birkin piece. If you damage it, are you sure you can afford to pay for it? Serena instantly let go, looking embarrassed. Who even knows if it's real? Can't afford a real one, and can't tell if it's fake. What are you even bluffing for? I let out a cold laugh, leaving the two of them behind in awkward silence as I strode away. For convenience, my dad had bought me a small 2-bedroom apartment near Galaxy Group, just a 10-minute commute. With a pancake roll in my mouth, I had just locked up a shared bike when I heard a mocking snort from nearby. Well, you can afford a Hermes bag but still ride a bike to work? The annoying voice gave me a headache. Swallowing my bite, I turned to face Serena with a smirk. Even the head steward still has to work. Isn't it normal for us commoners to bike? Without waiting for her response, I walked into the office building, leaving her fuming behind me. Serena wasn't just a gossip, she was also petty. Less than an hour into the workday, she was already telling everyone I was carrying a fake bag. She didn't even bother to hide it, making pointed remarks about me within earshot. Rocky, my cousin works at Hermes. I sent her a picture of your bag, and she said the store doesn't even have that model. If you can't afford the real thing, don't fake it. You're just making a fool of everyone. Haley chimed in, playing the neutral peacemaker. Serena, don't say that. Rocky probably just made a momentary mistake. Don't put her on the spot. You're too kind. That's why people take advantage of you. Serena frowned in disapproval. She wouldn't even help you with a little favor yesterday, and now she's pretending with a fake bag. Isn't she just afraid of being called out? This caused the onlookers, oblivious to the truth, to dart curious glances between the three of us, their expressions full of judgment. The more they went on, the more amused I became, until I couldn't help but laugh. What's so funny? Serena's expression darkened as she glared at me. Leaning back in my chair, I looked up at them. Your ignorance. Maybe you should ask your cousin what custom order means. Who knows if you're just bluffing? Serena snapped. Your words don't prove anything. Oh, but they can. I placed the bag from my desk onto my lap. Isn't Haley the Galaxy Group heiress? Her family's so wealthy. They should be able to tell if this Hermes is real or not. All eyes turned to Haley, whose face turned red, then white. We're all just colleagues. There's no need to get so serious. Whether it's real or fake doesn't really matter, does it? Her words practically confirmed that my bag was fake. The onlookers turned back to me, their expressions now tinged with disdainful curiosity. Just as I was about to speak, someone beat me to it. The bag is real. The unexpected voice came from a slim, pretty girl stepping out from the crowd. She was an intern like me. I remembered seeing her at the interview. Her name was Sarah. My mom loves collecting bags and has taught me about them since I was little. One glance, and I can tell if it's authentic. Sarah's words immediately deflated Serena's arrogance. Looking uneasy, Serena mumbled, "What's the big deal?" Haley, standing nearby, forced a strained smile. "It's all just a misunderstanding. Glad we cleared it up." I stood up and thanked Sarah, then walked over to Haley and Serena, towering over them. "I don't blame you for your lack of knowledge, but since you're so interested in my bags, I'll bring a different one every day. Consider it an education." Serena bit her lip, staying silent. I raised an eyebrow at Haley. "Next time, pay closer attention. Don't let there be another misunderstanding." Haley's face turned pale as she forced a stiff smile and nodded. I always keep my word, so over the next few days, I brought a different bag to work every day. The moment I stepped into the office, everyone would turn to look at Serena. Her face stayed green for days. "Rocky, when will you stop? Do you have to humiliate me like this?" Serena cornered me in the pantry, her eyes red as if she were the victim. Haley chimed in from the side. "We're all colleagues in the same office. Why not let it go now that you've made your point?" Serena already knows she was wrong. Don't make it harder for her. Do you never get tired of this act? I crossed my arms, leaning my back against the counter. When she accused me of carrying a fake bag, you were fanning the flames, and now you're playing the peacemaker. How many faces do you even have? Haley's expression turned from blue to white as she bit her lip and glared at me. I meant well, but if you don't appreciate it, that's fine. No need to slander me like this. I can't stand hypocrites. If you're afraid of criticism, stop messing with me. Save yourself the trouble. Serena, the embodiment of sycophancy, widened her eyes, ready to argue with me, but I cut her off. "Shut up. I don't want to hear a word from you. You prance around like a fool every day, not even realizing when you're being sold out. And stop provoking me. Stupidity is contagious." The satisfaction of saying those words cleared my morning fatigue instantly. Feeling refreshed, I left the pantry with my coffee, leaving the two of them fuming. Recently, my brother has had some free time and keeps showing up in my department, almost like he's conducting inspections. Our supervisor is so terrified, treading on eggshells for fear of making even the slightest mistake. This was already his third visit today, and I'd had enough. Covering my face with one hand, I gave him a look to shoo him away. He winked at me, and I glared harder, finally chasing him off. As soon as he left, Serena couldn't sit still. "Haley, Rocky's boss was just looking at you." I nearly spat out my water. Haley lowered her eyes, her cheeks faintly red. "Don't talk nonsense." The more Haley denied it, the more excited Serena became. "Rocky's boss came by 3 times today, and just now, he even winked at you. Could he like you?" Haley seemed to buy into the idea, lowering her head as her face flushed bright red. Sometimes I truly wonder if they're either brain damaged or just have bad eyesight. No matter what happens, they manage to twist it into something absurd. No matter how I looked at it, I couldn't figure out how they arrived at such a ridiculous conclusion. "Bro, do yourself a favor and stop coming to my office." I messaged him quietly. His reply came quickly. "Why don't you want me around? It's for your own good. Why are you acting so mysterious? Don't pry into workplace politics." Thankfully, he didn't press further and changed the subject. "Are you coming home tonight?" I usually stayed in the small 2-bedroom apartment near work during weekdays for convenience. But since the weekend was coming, of course I'd go home. "Absolutely," I typed back. "I'll finish work early today and head back with you." Okay. When we got home, Mom had already prepared dinner, a table full of my favorite dishes. "Mom, you're the best. I missed your cooking so much." Mom beamed as she piled food onto my plate. "You've been working hard. Eat up now that you're home." Dad smiled warmly at me as I gnawed on a rib. "Rocky, are you adjusting well at the company? How are your coworkers?" "They're great, and I'm settling in just fine. Except for 2 who seem to lack a fully functioning brain. One of them even thinks she can compete with me for Dad's attention." Honestly, part of why I haven't exposed Haley yet is that I'm enjoying the show. Her lies aren't sophisticated. They fall apart under even slight scrutiny. But she happens to have the timing, location, and people on her side. I did some digging privately. Haley's father does work for Galaxy Group, but he's not some high-ranking executive. He holds a minor position with some limited authority. As for my dad, he's a classic, wife-loving husband. When my mom was pregnant with my brother, Dad felt bad for her and decided that no matter how many kids they had, boy or girl, all their names would start with R, just like hers. Coincidentally, Dad's name is Bame. Though my brother is the heir to Galaxy Group, he earned his position as general manager entirely on his own, without riding on Dad's coattails. Aside from shareholders and a few senior executives, no one at the company knows he's the prince. I suppose it's precisely because of this that Haley feels confident claiming to be the daughter of Galaxy Group's big boss. The weekend flew by, and on Monday, my brother drove me to the company again. As we parted ways in the underground parking lot, I couldn't resist warning him, "Stop randomly showing up in my department." My brother looked aggrieved. "I'm just concerned about you. Even though I'm almost a college graduate, he still treats me like a little kid. He's doted on me since we were young, terrified that his only sister might face any hardship." I sighed. "What's there to worry about when you're on home turf?" He smiled and ruffled my hair. "If anything happens, just let me know. Your brother's got your back." Got it. When I entered the office, I noticed everyone giving me strange looks, like I was a piece of prime meat. As soon as I sat at my desk, my colleague Xiao Jiang scooted over, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. "What's your relationship with Rocky Boss?" "Rocky Boss?" I blinked at her, confused about why she suddenly brought up my brother. Xiao Jiang gave me a knowing pat on the shoulder and spoke with a teasing tone. "Don't play dumb. Xiao Huang just saw you getting out of Rocky Boss's car. We just happened to run into each other on the way to work. He's nice and gave me a ride." Everyone gave me the same skeptical look, as if saying, "Yeah, right? Who knows if you shamelessly clung to Rocky Boss?" Here we go again. Serena, emboldened by her alliance with the so-called Galaxy Group heiress, clearly didn't take my earlier warnings seriously. "So what if I did? Why don't you give it a shot and see if you can even get close to Rocky Boss?" As expected, she was enraged, hands on her hips as she glared at me. "Not everyone is as thick-skinned as you." I waved my hand by my nose as if to fan the air. "Who spilled the vinegar? It reeks." "You." Serena started but was cut off by Haley, who pulled her back. Serena fell silent, as if realizing something, her eyes darting mischievously. Before I could figure out what was brewing, Haley called my name. Rocky, we were trying to spare your dignity, but since you refused to change, I won't hold back anymore. Over the weekend, Serena and I saw you getting out of an older man's car. You were even clinging to his arm intimately. That man could be old enough to be your father. Don't you feel ashamed? Her words caused an uproar, as if afraid no one would believe her. Haley took out her phone and showed everyone the photos she had secretly taken. She deliberately didn't show them to me, but from the crowd's expressions, it was clear the photos were real. A dozen pairs of eyes turned to me, filled with shock, disdain, and disgust. It was as if I had committed some unforgivable crime. Haley looked smug as she surveyed the room, her gaze challenging. Serena, reveling in the moment, added mockingly, I was wondering how a mere intern like you could afford so many designer bags. Turns out you're just a sugar baby. Tisk, and you still think you can flirt with Rocky Boss? Shameless. Meanwhile, I was desperately trying to recall what I did over the weekend and who this older man might be. The weekend? Oh, right. The store called to say my pre-ordered bag had arrived, and my dad drove me to pick it up. Wait a minute. Could the older man they're talking about be my dad? Don't you all think? Finally, someone noticed something odd. The person holding Haley's phone hesitated. The man in this photo looks a lot like our chairman Bame. That comment sparked a commotion, leaving Haley and Serena looking bewildered and clueless. Someone else spoke cautiously, as if unsure. Which chairman Bame are you talking about? The person next to him swallowed nervously. How many chairman Bims does this company have? Haley's expression instantly changed, while Serena remained oblivious. What are you all mumbling about? Sarah's face was conflicted as she held the phone up to Haley. Aren't you supposed to be the chairman's daughter? How could you not recognize your own dad? Haley turned ghostly pale, her lips trembling as she stammered incoherently. Others began glancing at me, some with disdain, but most with gleeful expressions, as if they'd uncovered a juicy family scandal. So excited were they that they didn't even care I was standing right there. Whoa, Rocky's actually involved with Chairman Bame. No wonder she carries a different designer bag every day. Regular folks like us couldn't afford that in a lifetime. Wait, is Haley really Chairman Bame's daughter? She couldn't even recognize her own dad. How absurd. Is this considered self-exposure? I remember Chairman Bame has a good relationship with his wife. Did he really cheat? If this turns out to be true, oh my god, stepmother drama. Seeing how the conversation was veering into even more outrageous territory, I had no choice but to step in and clear my dad's name. Sorry to interrupt, I raised my voice, cutting through the noise. Everyone turned to look at me. Isn't it possible that I'm actually Chairman Bame's biological daughter? The crowd fell silent for a few seconds, and it seemed like Serena had finally understood the situation. She hastily retorted, Are you crazy? You're the one who's the third party, trying to ruin the family of Bame's chairman, and now you're acting righteous? Don't be ridiculous. Calling you stupid, and you still don't like it. Haley isn't even as desperate as you are. I sneered and tilted my head towards Haley. Haley, are you going to confess, or do you want me to say it? Haley, feeling guilty, didn't dare to look up at me. She hid behind Serena and mumbled, I don't know what you want me to confess. She looked like I was bullying her, and Serena stood in front of her, head held high, glaring at me. Don't take advantage of Haley just because she has a gentle nature. Speak with evidence. Some of our colleagues, who had been watching us, couldn't hold back and spoke up. Yeah, Rocky, what's going on here? You've confused everyone. A few people whispered from the crowd. Rocky and the chairman of Bame don't even have the same last name. How did they become father and daughter? Maybe she took her mother's surname? It's hard to say. Maybe these two are fakes. I heard every word clearly, and so did the two of them. Haley seemed to have regained some confidence. She probably thought I was lying too and wanted to take a chance. Rocky, I know you don't like me, but don't lie and deceive everyone just because we caught you in a secret. Her brazen attitude really made me laugh. You want proof? I looked at her with a cold smile. Fine, I just happened to have it. I took out my phone, opened the photo album, found the family picture, and held it up for everyone to see. Haley's face changed dramatically, her eyes wide in panic. The chairman of Bame is my real father. I'm his only daughter. Rupert is my real brother. We both have my mother's surname. Haley, what about you? What are you? I already warned you. I didn't plan on exposing you, but you insisted on digging your own grave. I'm done being patient. With every word I spoke, Haley's head lowered more, and Serena's face turned as white as a sheet, filled with fear as she looked at me. I sneered and scanned the room. Any more questions? Do you want me to call my dad and brother to confirm in person? Of course, no one dared to speak up. They all looked like they had seen a ghost. I sighed helplessly. What kind of situation was this? I had been minding my own business at work and hadn't done anything to provoke anyone. Who knew that after just 1 week, I would be forced to expose everything myself. My resentment toward Haley and Serena grew even deeper. They pushed me into revealing my true identity, and now they had made fools of themselves. Serena's face darkened. She shoved Haley hard and pointed at her nose, scolding her. "Haley, do you have no shame? We trusted you so much, and you fooled everyone. Aren't you afraid of retribution?" Haley finally dropped the act, revealing her true nature. She slapped Serena's hand away and snapped, "What right do you have to scold me? You're just a sycophant, a fence-sitter. You used to follow me around like a dog, practically begging for attention. Now that you realize I'm not some rich heiress, you're changing your tune? You deserve to be played by me." Serena was trembling with anger. "You shameless liar. You still have the nerve to argue? You're nothing but a walking lie. That's because you pushed me to it." Haley's eyes reddened, her voice quivering with tears. "If you hadn't kept pestering me like a fly, I wouldn't have lied. And you." Haley turned to me and glared. "In school, you always overshadowed me. You were always in the spotlight, and everyone ignored me to look at you. Why should I always be second to you? When I finally had the chance to surpass you, why did you have to make me a laughing stock? At first, I had been a passive observer, watching them tear each other apart. But now, for some reason, I had been dragged into the mess. Seeing her in such a manic state, I shook my head. Stop blaming others. You turned yourself into a joke. No one forced you to lie. You look down on yourself, so who can you blame? If you want others to notice you, work on improving your skills. But all you care about is shallow attention." Haley sneered, her expression one of defiance. "What are you, huh? What right do you have to lecture me? Just because you're the boss's daughter doesn't mean I'm afraid of you. If you want, just have your dad fire me. What are you thinking?" I scoffed. "Even if you're just an intern, you still signed a contract with Galaxy Group. Falsifying your background isn't enough to get you fired." Now Haley was on edge, looking at me warily. "What are you trying to do? You think everyone's like you?" I snorted. Without proper cause, firing her would open up the possibility for her to file for labor arbitration. I didn't want to cause trouble for Galaxy Group, nor did I want to give her any advantage. As long as she behaved herself from now on, I'd let it go. Haley furrowed her brows, testing me. "You won't retaliate?" I gave her a sharp look. "Don't flatter yourself. You're not worth my effort. Just do your job well. It's good for both of us. If you provoke me again, I won't hesitate to teach you a lesson." With that, I sat back down at my desk and continued working, ignoring them. "Enough. Everyone go back to work." The crowd finally snapped out of their shock and scattered like birds. Later, Serena privately came to apologize, subtly putting Haley down and trying to ingratiate herself with me. I couldn't stand Haley's fake attitude, and even less her opportunistic nature. So, I completely ignored her attempts at flattery. "Sorry, keep your distance from me. I'm allergic to dog hair." After that, Haley did stay low for a while, and Serena started avoiding me like the plague. Whenever she saw me from afar, she'd quickly change her path, afraid to upset me. As for Haley's impersonation, the colleagues initially had a lot of complaints. Whether she was present or not, they'd always find ways, both openly and subtly, to make sarcastic remarks seemingly out of revenge to embarrass her. Although Haley was foolish, she was not completely brainless. She realized she had offended people and decided to make amends by generously offering apologies. One day she'd treat everyone to a meal, the next day to tea. Even though some people were still dissatisfied, it became hard for them to continue making a fuss. As the saying goes, one doesn't strike someone offering a smile. Those with more experience in the workplace, people who had been around for a few years, were all quite perceptive. At the end of the day, no one's interests were harmed, so they just smiled it off. The group of interns who joined Galaxy Group together also had no need to make enemies with anyone early on in their careers. After eating meals and drinking tea, everything was back to normal. As for Serena, the rift between her and Haley was definitely solidified. Whenever they met, they'd exchange eye rolls. Previously, when Serena was trying to please Haley, many people had privately criticized her. But because of Haley's rich girl status, they gave her face. Now that Haley no longer had that backing, Serena was busy flattering everyone, but some people simply ignored her, making it clear they didn't like her. Some pretended to be friends with her on the surface, but secretly saw her as a clown. But how they dealt with me had nothing to do with them. I only quietly sighed to myself one day when I saw Haley and Serena holding hands, seemingly back to their old selves. This world really was magical. Since my identity was exposed, everyone suddenly became much more polite to me. Even the group leader who used to ask me to pour tea and water now often asked if I was tired from work. That's why I initially wanted to hide my identity. I hate seeing these fake, sycophantic smiles smiles. I once overheard a conversation among my university classmates who said I was overly guarded. I don't deny that, but I wasn't always like this. When I was younger, I had many friends, and I treated each of them sincerely. They loved coming to my house, and whenever they did, their parents always brought gifts. At that time, I was just happy to see my friends and never once suspected anything. It wasn't until one of my best friends tore off the bracelet that symbolized our friendship and angrily asked, "Aren't we good friends? Why won't your dad help my dad?" that I realized they came to my house because their parents had something to ask of my father. They weren't seeking me as a friend, but the daughter of the chairman of Galaxy Group. Since middle school, I haven't mentioned my family background to anyone. I began to be wary of everyone trying to get close to me, always thinking they had ulterior motives. Perhaps it's my body's self-protection mechanism, but I didn't want to be deceived again. This month, our team took on a big project, and we worked hard for half a month. On the signing day, the business manager took me along, so the signing counted as part of my contribution. Though the bonus wasn't much for me, it was enough for the manager to want to win me over. When I entered the private room, I ran into some old acquaintances. Alice immediately smiled when she saw me. "Oh, isn't this Rocky?" Tony, sitting beside her, stared at me blankly, clearly surprised by my appearance. When I realized that the partner company was Zito, my heart skipped a beat. I didn't expect to run into those two here. Usually, enemies would glare at each other when meeting, but I just nodded and smiled. What a coincidence. Alice looked me up and down. "You're an intern?" I kept up the fake smile. "Good eye." Alice scoffed, struggling like this. "But for old classmates' sake, if you ask me, I can get my dad at Zito to find you a job." I shook my head, still smiling faintly, with a pointed remark, "No, my teeth are fine, and I don't like eating soft rice." Tony's face turned green. Tony was my ex-boyfriend. We were together for half a year, but near graduation, he cheated on me with Alice. The reason? Alice's dad owned a company. He said we had no future together. The department manager, who had been standing nearby, was completely confused. At first, he thought I was familiar with the people at the table and was happy about it. When he heard our conversation, he realized something was wrong and quickly tried to change the subject. "President Alice, the signature dish of this hotel is great. Let's eat and talk at the same time." But Alice clearly wasn't going to let me off easy. She kept dragging things out at the table, forcing her subordinates to pour me more drinks. The manager's face turned pale, and he opened his mouth to stop it, but I stopped him. Alice was trying to make trouble. If it was just the two of us, I could have easily thrown the drink in her face. But considering my colleagues still depended on this deal for their bonuses, I had to think about them. They worked hard for so long, they couldn't leave empty-handed. I decided to bear with it, just treating it as playing along with Alice. Tony kept tugging at Alice's sleeve, asking her to stop. Alice wasn't having it. She frowned and shouted, "Stop what? Do you still have feelings for her?" "I didn't mean that." "Then shut up." Tony immediately stopped talking, frowning, sitting quietly, and watching me drink with Alice. What they didn't know was that I had a really high tolerance for alcohol. This amount was just like drinking water for me. If it was just drinking, I wouldn't have minded, but someone was being dishonest. One middle-aged man, with a beer belly, got a bit tipsy. He stood up and walked straight over to me. "Little sister, you can drink, huh? Let's have another drink together." He got too close, and the stench of alcohol made me frown. Just as I was about to back away, I felt hands land on my thigh. The man in front of me grinned with yellow teeth, leering as his palm rubbed my thigh. "Forget it, I'll tolerate you." Damn it. I grabbed the man by the hair and slammed his head hard against the table, making the table emit a heavy thud. "What are you doing?" Alice was startled, instinctively shrinking back, hiding behind Tony. I ignored her, turned to look at the stunned manager, and said, "The cooperation is canceled, but the bonuses will still be paid. I'll cover the costs." This time, Alice stopped hiding, and with a whoosh, she stood up from her chair. "Who are you? Why are you canceling the cooperation?" I let go of him, wiped my hands with a tissue, and stepped on the man's hand as I walked out. "I'm your father." On my way back, I called my brother. "Bro, just letting you know, I've canceled the cooperation with Goldman Sachs." "What happened?" "Some bastard touched my leg, so I beat him up." The breath on the other end suddenly became heavy. My brother cursed, his voice filled with anger. "Where is that bastard?" I hailed a cab. "I've already left. No need for you to come. I've already taught him a lesson. I'm just calling to inform you. Don't worry about it. This isn't over." He hung up, sounding really angry. I didn't care what he was planning to do, but I knew someone was going to be in trouble. The next day, Alice showed up at Galaxy Group, saying she wanted to renegotiate the cooperation. When I bumped into her at the elevator on the first floor, she shot me a sharp glare. "Rocky, you wait. One day, I'll settle the score with you." I crossed my arms and looked at her coldly. "I don't know if you'll ever get a chance to settle the score with me, but your dad definitely settled it with you yesterday. Let me guess, I pretended to think. He must have scolded you for ruining the cooperation with Galaxy Group, right? Alice was clearly hit by my words, her face turning bright red with anger. What did you do? Not telling you. You. Tony stepped in at the right moment, pulling her back. The elevator's here. We still need to meet with Rocky. Let's not be late. Alice stopped, gave me a resentful glare, and followed Tony into the elevator. The Goldman Sachs group got into the elevator, and there was still room inside. But Alice blocked the door, looking at me provocatively. This one's full. Wait for the next one. I smiled generously. No need to bother. I'll take the private elevator. I then turned and, with her surprised gaze on me, stepped into the opposite private elevator. When my brother and I entered the meeting room, the Goldman Sachs team had already been waiting for a long time. Alice first glared at me, then quickly put on a flattering smile and extended her hand to my brother. Rocky, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. My brother didn't even glance at her. He walked around her and sat directly in the main seat. I followed and sat next to him. Alice looked a bit awkward, but quickly regained her smile. Rocky, about yesterday, it was indeed our fault. The employee involved has been fired, and he was also injured. How about we let this matter go? Let it go? My brother sneered. If you were in my position, would you just let it go? Rocky, please don't be angry. After all, we've been longtime clients. There's no need to hold a grudge over one small employee, right? It's not worth it, is it? Alice quickly apologized with a smile. Her words hit a nerve, and my brother's expression darkened even further, his gaze turning cold and sharp. Rocky is not some small employee. She is my Rupert's sister, the only heir of Galaxy Group. Alice was stunned, staring at me as if she couldn't believe it. Tony quickly turned to look at me, his face full of disbelief. If I were him, I wouldn't accept it either. Picking up sesame seeds and losing a watermelon, who could accept that? It took Alice a while to snap back to reality, and she stammered, Rocky, I'm sorry. I didn't know. You shouldn't be apologizing to me. You should be asking my sister for forgiveness. Alice widened her eyes, clenching her fists tightly, standing still for a long time without moving. Alice valued her pride above all else, relying on her wealthy father to look down on everything. For her to apologize to me would be like throwing her face on the ground and stepping on it. My brother made a move to get up, coldly saying, Since you're not sincere, there's no need to continue this conversation. Sorry, Alice said stiffly. This was all our fault. Please, be magnanimous and don't hold this against us. You're wrong, I said, leaning back in my chair, lazily adding, I'm very petty and I intend to hold this against you. Alice stared at me in shock, seeming aggrieved. I already apologized. So what? I tilted my head innocently. I don't accept it. You. Alice's eyes turned red with anger, but she dared not provoke me again. She turned to beg my brother, Rocky, aren't you going to say anything? My brother naturally sided with me. Here, Rocky calls the shots. I gave him an appreciative look, propping my chin on one hand. I already said yesterday the cooperation is canceled. I've already paid out the bonuses. Do I still care about this? Alice gritted her teeth. We can still give up some of the profits. I pulled my brother and walked off without even giving her a glance. Do you think Galaxy Group lacks your money? What a joke. Offending me. How could I let her get away with it? My brother had been angry all day because of what happened last night, but his face softened by now. So, how about it? Not angry anymore. He raised an eyebrow. It's okay. Originally, I planned to handle Alice myself, but my brother was worried, afraid I couldn't deal with her and would get bullied. I told you I can handle it, but you didn't believe me. How could she possibly bully me? My brother rolled his eyes. Manager Zhang told me everything. Last night, someone was force-fed several bottles of alcohol. I quickly rebutted. I just thought it was the first time negotiating a contract, so I let her have her way. With me and Dad backing you up, why should you tolerate her? I stuck out my tongue. Got it, next time. I'll just go straight to it. He nodded in satisfaction. That's more like it. If anything happens, I've got your back. Hee hee, you're the best, bro. Oh, right. He stopped and looked at me. How much did you spend on the bonuses? Meaning he'd reimburse me. I waved my hand. It wasn't much. All right, if you're short on cash, just let me know. I'll send you the money. Enough. I haven't even spent much of my pocket money from Dad. Oh, and don't tell Dad about this. With his temper, he might get high blood pressure. Thinking of Dad getting angry, I couldn't help but remind him. My brother waved his hand nonchalantly and walked ahead. I know. Let's go eat. After work, I walked out of the office building and saw Tony at the entrance. It looked like he was specifically waiting for me. Rocky, I walked around him. Excuse me. He quickly caught up and grabbed my wrist. Rocky, wait. I need to talk to you. I pulled my hand away in disgust. I don't want to listen. He reached for me again, but I stepped back and coldly warned, if you come any closer, I'll call security. He raised his hand, frozen in midair, unwilling to let it go. He stood there, calling out, "Rocky, don't call me like that, it's gross. I have nothing to say to you. Don't ever appear in front of me again," I said, and then walked off, trying to look casual. I didn't even ride a bike, just took a taxi. Some people only show up to disgust you. After breaking up, I refused to acknowledge that I ever dated him. Tony and I were college classmates. I didn't like him at first, but he pursued me relentlessly for 3 years. I thought he was sincere, so I decided to give him a chance. I never told him about my family background. I deliberately hid it from him, but he stubbornly chased me for 3 years without any response, so I thought he truly liked me. I was planning to tell him after graduation, but instead, he betrayed me without hesitation for the sake of his future. He said he didn't want to be an ordinary person forever, that he didn't want to wear cheap clothes, but he had no taste. During our relationship, all the clothes I bought for him were custom-made by Italian designers, yet he envied the obvious logos on others' clothes, even buying cheap secondhand goods for it. I should have known then that he was a vain person. When Alice stood proudly in front of me holding Tony's hand, he lowered his head and muttered, "Sorry." I poured my milk tea over him, leaving an indelible stain on his expensive custom shirt. I said, "Don't regret it." It seemed like he regretted it, but so what? He brought it upon himself. I thought I had been clear enough, but Tony seemed to be unable to understand anything I said. He kept showing up by my side, lingering. I don't know where he got my phone number, but he started sending me harassment messages nonstop every day. "Good morning, it's going to rain today. Remember to bring an umbrella. Have you had breakfast? What did you have for lunch? Are you hungry? I've ordered you some afternoon tea. Rocky, I miss you so much." Every meal he ordered for me was thrown away, and I blocked countless phone numbers. But he was particularly persistent. He wouldn't stop until I was completely disgusted. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. When he once again followed me, I turned around to face him. "What exactly do you want?" Tony looked innocent. "I'm taking you home. I don't need it. How many times do I have to tell you? We broke up long ago. When you cheated on me with Alice, that was the end." Tony took a step forward but stopped when he saw my frown. His words were earnest. "I regret it, Rocky. I was wrong before. I admit it. Please give me another chance. I'll treat you right and never make you sad again." I looked at him and really couldn't understand how I once thought he was sincere. He was clearly so hypocritical it was nauseating. I coldly watched his act of pretending to be deep in emotion and couldn't help but sneer. "Tony, do you really think you were wrong? Or did you suddenly realize that I could give you a better life than Alice, and now you want to come back?" Tony panicked, stepping forward to tightly hug me, trying to explain, "No, Rocky, don't misunderstand. I truly know I was wrong. Let go of me." I broke free from his arms and slapped him hard. Slap. I used all my strength, and my hand went numb from the impact. "My biggest mistake with you was thinking you were worthy of my sincerity." Tony covered half of his face, looking lost as he stared at me. "Car, house, branded watches, custom suits, everything you wanted, I was willing to give you. Do you remember that coat you despised as cheap knockoff, shoved in the corner of the wardrobe? That was something I ordered from a private Italian tailor a month in advance. Only VIPs can customize it, and it's one of a kind in the world. Yet, you thought it wasn't as good as Nike. Everything you could have had was ruined by your stupidity, vanity, and greed. I won't give you a second chance. Stop bothering me. If you keep this up, I won't hesitate to send you to the police. Now that you've hooked up with Alice, you should hold on to that. If you lost the watermelon, at least keep the sesame." Tony never came to bother me again. I thought my life had finally returned to normal, but the unexpected hit me like a bolt out of the blue. A blog post titled "Galaxy Group's Heiress and Workplace Bullying" quickly went viral, topping the trending topics with millions of views in a short time. Galaxy Group had a dedicated online publicity department to manage the company's reputation. Normally, blog posts with such an obvious attacking tone would be handled before they became public. But this time, the person behind it had clearly come prepared. The moment the post was published, countless internet trolls flooded the topic, making it go viral. By the time the publicity department noticed, it was already too late. I have to admit, the author of this post was quite talented. Their writing really hit a nerve with the public, clear in logic and full of emotion. The image of a workplace rookie being bullied by someone with privilege stood out vividly. The writer shed blood with every word, exposing all my evil deeds. If someone who didn't know the truth read it, they would definitely side with the writer. In less than half a day, the original post had been shared over 1 million times, and many prominent influencers came forward to speak up for the victim, calling for the public to resist workplace bullying. I truly admire their fearless of authority and brave to speak up spirit, but the real victim here is me. I've been cyberbullied. The internet sleuths dug up all my social media accounts, and my comments and private messages flooded in. I closed my phone after just a glance. These people are so vicious. I've never seen so many different types of foul language in my life. The official Galaxy Group Weibo account immediately issued a statement, which was quickly torn apart by angry netizens. Even when colleagues stood up for me, their words were twisted into an attempt at whitewashing. No one online would believe me, and even Galaxy Group stock was affected. Naturally, my dad found out about this huge incident. He came straight to our department and dragged me home. Tell me what happened. My parents were sitting on the sofa, and my brother and I were standing across from them. We exchanged a glance, but neither of us spoke. The main reason was that we didn't know how to start. What's with the look you two are giving each other? Speak up. My dad slammed the table, and it made my heart skip a beat. Dad, I didn't do any of those things. I lowered my head, feeling a bit wronged. Dad, Rocky's not that kind of person. She's never bullied anyone at work. My brother stepped in front of me to speak for me, afraid my dad wouldn't believe me. All right, my dad waved his hand. I know my own daughter. What I want to know is who Rocky offended for someone to slander her like this. Well, that's hard to say. I've offended more than one or two people. I scratched my head awkwardly. It's true, one shouldn't be too smug. If you're not careful, someone might dig a pit for you. You girl. My mom glared at me. How can you still be so unserious at a time like this? I quickly went over to comfort her. Oh, Mom, I just wanted to make you happy. She slapped my hand off her and said, my daughter has been bullied like this, and you think I can be happy? She was about to tear up, so I quickly hugged her. It's okay. I'll find out who's behind this and prove my innocence. Dad furrowed his brow. Do you have any leads? I nodded. Almost there. My brother came over and asked, what are you planning to do? Not in a hurry. The exposure isn't over yet. Let's wait and see what the other side's next move is. My guess was correct. That afternoon, insiders exposed two more huge scandals one after another. First, someone claimed that I maliciously beat up others and used my power to get people fired. Then, someone revealed that I was the other woman, interfering in someone else's relationship, and even provided a video. The video was secretly recorded, and because it was filmed up close, the images were very clear. In the video, Tony and I were hugging tightly, and the composition of the shot had a very dramatic feel. To be honest, I really admire the person who filmed the video. What kind of person could capture us in such a way that we appeared like a pair of lovesick fools? Just looking at the footage, one could easily imagine a melodramatic love story unfolding. There was also a screenshot of a Facebook chat between Tony and me. The time was 3:42 p.m. on the 7th of this month, the same day the video was filmed. The screenshot contained only one message, which I sent to Tony. Let's meet this afternoon. I miss you. The profile picture was indeed mine, but the key point is, I never added Tony on Facebook. With just a 2-second clip and a single message, netizens quickly assumed I was the third party. As soon as this was proven, the internet believed every word of the allegations, even without any substantial evidence. I suddenly became the mistress everyone wanted to attack. The victim became the perpetrator, and the one who was cheated on became the other woman. This world really is absurd. I immediately went to the police station to file a report. Then I opened Weibo and uploaded an audio file using my personal account. It was from the last time I met Tony. I had already felt something was off. Every time Tony came to see me, there was always someone secretly following behind him. Sneaky and clearly not a good person. So I stayed alert and recorded every meeting with Tony. I never thought it would actually come in handy. I also attached screenshots of the messages Tony had sent me during his harassment and the blacklist I had created. These two posts on Weibo quickly went viral. After Galaxy Group reposted them, the online publicity department quickly added the relevant hashtags and the topic took over the trending list. This reversal was completely unexpected. Scumbag. So the current boyfriend is the mistress? Waiting for the next twist. After eating all this melon, it turns out to be fake. What is even real on the internet anymore? Some people also questioned, but what about that Facebook screenshot? That doesn't look like it was faked. Coincidentally, I was also very curious about what had happened. I applied to restore the Facebook chat history and discovered that I really had added Tony, and that message was real. It was clear someone had secretly taken my phone, added Tony on Facebook, sent the message, and then deleted him afterward to avoid me noticing. Only people close to me could have done this. The 7th was a Wednesday, and I was still at work around 3:30 p.m. I immediately rushed back to the office to pull up our department's surveillance footage. The footage showed that at 3:37 p.m. on the 7th, after I had left my desk, someone secretly took my phone from my desk and returned it at 3:44 p.m. I provided this footage to the police, and as soon as Serena arrived at the police station, she confessed lost everything. According to her, she was instructed by Haley to steal my phone, add Tony on Facebook, and send him that message. When asked how she knew my phone's password, she explained she had lent her phone to other colleagues before, and she specifically told them the password was her birthday. The police officer advised me not to easily share my phone password with others. The police then brought in Haley, and they found the original blog post in her secondary account. At this point, things were pretty clear. Alice had teamed up with Haley to take revenge on me, and Haley had roped Serena in as a scapegoat. Alice and Haley had been close in college, so it wasn't surprising they could still get together now. I could guess without a doubt how Alice had persuaded Haley. Didn't she tell you that if you helped her this one time, she would get her dad to arrange a job for you at Goldman Sachs, and you could become a little leader without having to put up with me? Haley's face darkened. How did you know? I rolled my eyes. She only says a few things repeatedly. It's hard to forget. Haley bit her lip and finally softened. I'm sorry. I was just momentarily deceived. Please don't sue me. Now you're scared? I sneered. It's useless. I'm definitely suing you. Haley's face turned pale. She trembled and begged. I'm really sorry. I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I promise I'll never go against you again. I already gave you a chance. It's your fault you didn't cherish it. Oh, by the way, I need to tell you something. I bent down and smiled at her. I'm not only suing you, but I'm also suing your father, who abused his power to get you this job. You two can go to jail together. I was lying to her. I didn't know if her dad's actions were serious enough to land him in jail. I just wanted to scare her. It worked like a charm. As soon as Haley heard her dad might be in trouble, she was almost in tears. Now, there's only one rumor left unresolved. There were no cameras in the private room, so I can't recreate what happened that day, but the Galaxy Group meeting room does have cameras. I retrieved the surveillance footage from the meeting room when Alice visited Galaxy Group and extracted a portion where Alice admits they were wrong from the start. The online world changes rapidly, and the same event can be interpreted differently by different people. In this situation, I have to choose the way that benefits me the most. I can only look for these pieces of evidence. Just as I was about to send the evidence to the online publicity department, Sarah approached me. She sent me a video, exactly what happened on the day I revealed my identity, secretly recorded by other colleagues. I'm not sure if it's useful, but I hope it can help you. I smiled. It's very useful, thank you. I actually need it right now. If you need any help, just ask. We're all willing to testify for you. I nodded. Thanks. I packaged all the evidence and sent it to the online publicity department. Their efficiency was impressive, and they quickly wrote a press release, completely turning the situation around. In no time, the same netizens who had criticized me the most flooded my social media to apologize. Influencers deleted their previous posts and reposted the Galaxy Group official statement. Alice, seeing the unexpected turn of events, hurried to find me and begged for a reconciliation, hoping to settle things privately. I flatly rejected her. When you teamed up with Haley to slander me, you should have expected this outcome. I've told you before, I have a very small heart. Whoever messes with me, I'll get back at them. I'm not the type to repay evil with kindness. Before Alice could say anything else, I cut her off. Galaxy Group doesn't need this small amount of money. I just want to get some relief. Originally, I wanted to expose Alice and the others to let them experience the online abuse I went through. But if I did that, I'd be no different from the people I despise. I didn't want to be an instigator of online violence. In the end, I decided not to release the video Sarah gave me. I wanted to make them pay the price through legal means. After gathering the evidence, I filed a lawsuit for defamation against Alice and Haley. The criminal facts of Alice and Haley were established, and they were convicted of defamation, sentenced to 2 years in prison. The boss of Goldman Sachs came to talk to my dad but was refused. He then took out his anger on Tony, firing him and threatening to make it impossible for him to survive locally. Tony shot himself in the foot, and in the end, he got nothing. He took a train south that night. As for Serena, her actions didn't constitute a crime. She was given a verbal warning by the police and fined $200. However, she couldn't continue working at Galaxy Group and resigned in disgrace. As for Haley's father, he lost all face. Before my dad could approach him, he packed up and resigned on his own. I never saw these people again. They may be pitiable, but they're not worthy of sympathy. Their current situation is entirely of their own making. In my latest blog post, I wrote, "May we all maintain a sense of clarity in these restless times." The end. If you like Kitten's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.